Hello and welcome. In this video, I will show you the backup strategy for my photos that I've been working with for quite some years, and that showed to be effective last week when I had like the biggest data crash than I ever had so far. So what happened? I was on vacation for 2 weeks, last week of September, first week of October, and when I got home, of course, the first thing I wanted to do was to import the photos that I made to my computer, which wasn't possible because the drive was gone. Like, where's the drive, right? Of course, it wasn't physically gone. This is the drive, but it was gone from the computer. So I wasn't able to access the drive. So of course, first things that I did, unplugging, replugging, restarting, all that jazz. Then I Googled and tried everything that I found on various forums on the web, YouTube videos. Those of you who are more tech savvy than I am probably know all these things already. Check disk, stuff like that. Nothing helped. Apparently the drive was corrupt. Then I tried to access it with specialized software. Also didn't help. So yeah, before wasting even more time, I'm pretty sure there are other possibilities to get the data back. But before wasting more time on that, because I wanted to have my photos back, right? I accessed my backups. And the S is the clue, because as a very wise person once told me, your backup doesn't exist until you have a backup of a backup. So I had more, or have more than one. I have more than one backup. And so I put everything together again. The cool thing is, and that's why I make this video, there are two really cool features Lightroom has. And apparently, because I talked with some people about that, these are two little known features. Not too many people that I know about these features. These two features really helped me a lot in building my backup. So disclaimer, this video is not about how to rescue data or get data back from corrupt drives. It's about backup strategies. It's about how Lightroom can help us create backups. And I'm not talking about only exclusively about backing the photos up, right? The data of the photo, but also the edits. What do I mean by that? I will tell you after the intro. One of the most important things is also one of the seemingly most obvious things. But, well, apparently, while doing research on the whole subject, backup strategies, data rescue, etc., 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 it seems not to be too obvious for quite some people. So that's why I mention it. Our backups should be on physically different drives. Putting the backup in just a different folder on the same drive is virtually useless, because when the drive fails, the second folder is gone as well. So put the backup on physically different drives and get sure that the second drive is really a physically different drive, especially in laptops and notebooks, etc., etc., etc. It sometimes happens that there's one hard disk in the computer that has two partitions. So it's the same physical drive, but with two drive letters. So if you're not sure about that, get an external drive. They're not expensive anymore. And for the backup of the backup, also get another drive. So you have to have at least 3 drives. So that is to increase the safety and the security of your data. Of course, there are things like cloud space, which definitely will increase your data safety. So I personally, I'm not really a fan of that, even though I absolutely accept that this will increase the data safety. I have a cloud space in my home, which I am aware is not ideal, because if something happens here in the home, right, then yeah, but well, this is not about data that is really essential. It's about photos. I don't make a living on my photography. I don't earn money with my photography. It's just a hobby. So of course it would be extremely annoying, to put it mildly, if these were gone. But well, so this is my third drive, but I will talk about that a bit later in the video. So now let's go into Lightroom and look at the two features that I mentioned in the beginning that really help us backing our data up. Here we are already in the import dialog of Lightroom, and I want to draw your attention to these 4 possibilities that we have on top. Right now, there are only 2 available. We have copy and copy as DNG. There are also move and add. Move and add are only available if we import from a drive, a hard drive, and not a memory card. I will talk about these features in a minute. So copying the files is usually the way that I add my photos to Lightroom. They will be copied from the memory card to this destination that I put in here. In my case, it's my drive with the drive letter X and the path photos, 01 photos, right? So of course I could specify the drive here. So the photos will be copied from the memory card to my computer. So this is just a copy. There's one instance of these photos. And here comes the trick. I want to make an instant backup of these photos. And Lightroom can do that by simply checking this checkbox here. Make a second copy too. And I can specify a folder on, as I mentioned, a different drive. So Lightroom will not only copy the photos to the drive that I specified here, but also make an instant copy, a second copy to a different drive. So we have already a backup of this import, which is pretty useful. What about copy as DNG? This is something that might increase or will increase the safety for future generations of software. So what Lightroom does, if we use this feature, is to convert our photos to DNG files. DNG, digital negative files, are Adobe standardized file type that is said to be a universal file type. Adobe tries to push the DNG format to become the universal raw file format. Well, so far they didn't really succeed, but it will probably increase the possibility that future generations of software will be able to open your photos. I don't use that. I just simply use copy. As for move and add, if you move your photos from the destination folder, in that case, well, it's not possible from a memory card, but it would be possible from a different drive. Then it will be simply, the photos will be simply copied to the new destination and a second copy to the second destination, and then deleted from the original drive, right? Which is something that if you want to migrate photos from one drive to another, this might be a good idea to do. Adding just simply means if you plug in a drive and want to leave the photos on that drive and only be able to access these photos from Lightroom. So adding them to the catalog. Have in mind that Lightroom does not hold any photos. Lightroom only memorizes where these photos are located. So if you add photos to the Lightroom catalog, then the photos will stay where they are, and Lightroom just knows where they are, and they will show up in the catalog. As I mentioned, Lightroom doesn't hold photos, right? It just knows where these photos are. And another thing about Lightroom is that all the changes that we make in Lightroom to our photos do not affect the originals, right? This is the so-called non-destructive editing. So we keep the original files, and the changes that we made in Lightroom are only applied to a copy that then will be rendered out. The problem is, if we lose the catalog, all of the edits that we made are also gone, because the Lightroom not only holds the destination of the photos, right? It also holds what we did to the photos. So all the changes we made are stored in the catalog. So the way I have my Lightroom catalog and all the photos, etc., built in is the Lightroom is on my C drive. The photos are on, as you saw, on my X drive. The backup is on a different drive. So if my C drive fails, then my catalog is gone. Lightroom does backups of the catalog, but it makes puts the backups in the same folder, and the backup of the catalog Lightroom makes are mostly because these catalogs can become corrupt, so that we have a backup of that catalog. A Lightroom catalog is nothing else than a big database, right? And of course, database is an SQL database, as far as I know. So of course, databases can become corrupt. And so it's good to have backups. But when the drive fails, well, the catalog is gone. You still have your photos on a different drive, but all the edits are gone. And this is where the second trick, also a very little known trick, comes in really, really handy, because you can save not only your edits that you made in Lightroom, but also everything else, like keywords, etc., 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 separately outside of the Lightroom catalog. And if you back these up as well, then, well, you have everything, even if you lost your Lightroom catalog. To do that, we have to go to Edit, Catalog Settings. And you see there are 3 tabs here. The General tab with all the information about the catalog. You see where my catalog is stored. By the way, you probably saw this is still Lightroom 6. I don't have Lightroom CC on this computer. I have Lightroom CC on my other computer in the living room, because this computer here still runs Windows 7, and Lightroom CC, well, needs Windows 10. And for a couple of reasons, I still have to use Windows 7 on this computer. But this all of that also works, of course, in Lightroom CC as well. So in the General tab, we have all the information: the location, the file name, the size of the catalog, the backup frequency, so how often Lightroom backs the catalog up, right? The next tab, file handling, I will not go into detail in here. It's about the previews, it's about import sequence numbers, etc. Important for this is the metadata tab. And there is a checkbox called automatically write changes into XMP. And this is what does the trick. Everything we do in Lightroom to our photos will be stored when we check this checkbox, right? Will be stored in a separate, tiny little small file. And I will show you that. As you can see here, these are the photos img underscore 1801.cr2, so a Canon RAW file. And next to that is a little XMP file. And you see it's only 3.45 kilobytes. And this XMP file holds all the changes that we made to the photo in Lightroom in a standardized format. So even if we put keywords in, etc., 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 this is also stored in this XMP file. And this is not only useful for Lightroom, it's also useful for all sorts of software that supports XMP files like Photoshop. So if we open this file in Photoshop, then Photoshop will look, is there an XMP file available for that file? And if so, what changes were made to that photo in Lightroom? And so Photoshop will also apply these same changes, which is pretty useful. And also, as I mentioned, stuff like keywords, etc., are also stored in this XMP file. So if we import photos from a drive, and that's what I did after the data crash, I just simply copied all the photos and all the folders with all the photos to a new drive, right? To make my new working drive for my photos. And there were, of course, also these XMP files. And I didn't have to use my old catalog. I just simply made a new catalog, imported everything, and everything was like it was before, because all the keywords, all the edits, everything was in there, and it was like my old catalog. So far, I only talked about the backup that Lightroom makes while importing my photos. So I import my photos, I copy them from my memory card to my computer. And this copy is the copy that I work with. Lightroom makes a second copy to a separate drive, which is fine and dandy. I have my photos there. The problem is I don't have the XMP files that Lightroom creates when working on photos, right? It already creates an XMP file because I already, while importing, usually add some keywords so that I find my photos later. So these XMP files are missing on the backup that Lightroom makes, right? So what I do is to simply use the software that came for free with my external drive, and I even can't even say what the name of the software is. It's some software, free software from Western Digital, and this software observes the changes from folders, right? I can say, well, please check these folders if there are changes, and if there are changes, copy the changes to the backup destination. So if I add something, or Lightroom adds something like the XMP file, this file will automatically, by the software, be copied to the backup location. And then this exact software also makes a backup of the complete file structure to a third drive. So comparatively simple setup once it is, well, set up. And that third location is my MacLeod drive that I have in the hallway, right? So, and it's connected to my router, so I can access this drive from all the computers in my home, which are, well, two, right? This computer and my computer in the living room. I still have a laptop somewhere, but I can also access it with my phone because it's in the same Wi-Fi. And with the app on the phone, I can even access it as long as the cloud drive is running, right? I usually don't have it running when I'm not at home, but I could even access the files on that cloud drive with the app and the password, of course, while I'm not at home, which is pretty handy. So I hope this helped. What are your backup strategies? How do you back your photos up? Do you have a real cloud backup somewhere? What kind of software do you use? Please share your knowledge, share your expertise, share what you do. I think we all will benefit from that. There are things that I'm sure that my backup strategy is not the best. It works for me. Maybe it helps you to get a bit of an overview what can be done. Maybe it's something that you'd consider that it might be working for you as well. So yeah, this one's for today. Bye-bye. Till next time.
I'm pretty sure you want to subscribe to this channel.
Why do you say that?
Because